Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of AKP Sports Talk. As always, I'm Ari here with Korea. We're back on another Friday, Friday before the first college football Saturday, week one. We had obviously some games yesterday to start us off in week one that we'll get into a quick recap of. Um, Tough win today for you, Korea. Tough lost Sacramento State for both of us. And then North Dakota State was a big cover at the end, obviously. But what were your takeaways from your three plays?
Well, Ari, if you notice something with all three of these picks, they were all FCS schools back in the year 2022, and Jacksonville State, they should stay in the FCS after that performance. Because my God, what in the blue hell was that? They came out, had no offense, didn't have any offense. Their quarterbacks were absolutely abysmal. I think they finished with 200 yards of offense. Their defense couldn't stop a nosebleed. I'm telling you, they should stay in FCS. Now, North Dakota State. That is team, right? Everyone was saying, oh, Colorado minus 9.5. Oh, Colorado minus 10. Put it in your parlays. It's looking good. Yeah, how'd that do for you? Colorado was still mid. I'm not surprised there. Their defense was horrible. Their defense couldn't stop NDSU at all. And obviously, no discredit to North Dakota State. They have a very, very good offense. Their wide receivers are very talented, but Colorado was really, really bad defensively. Obviously, on their offense, it was amazing. Shedeur Sanders was slinging the ball. Obviously, him and Travis Hunter looked like the next, like Dak and CeeDee Lamb duo. That was amazing. They were literally, it was just amazing just how, Shedeur would just be slinging the ball. Obviously, Travis Hunter on that third and goal with the amazing, that catch. Oh, my Jesus, that was an amazing catch. But didn't matter because North Dakota State covered in the end. Obviously, their defense, Colorado's run defense, I will give them credit where it's due. Colorado's run defense did improve. Colorado's run defense did take a step up. But the secondary, that's where the problem was, and that's where it still is. We saw Cam Miller for the quarterback from North Dakota State. He had a great game just slinging the ball. So you look at it at the end of the day, and you say, was Colorado 10 points better? No, because they let North Dakota State's team hang on with them. In fact, North Dakota State had the lead going into half. So credit to that. I would have, if I would have saw that, maybe would have just gone first half North Dakota State, money line or something. Just at the beginning of the game, just would see how inefficient Colorado was. Yes, they were efficient, but they were scoring so quickly. In North Dakota State, they take these long, efficient drives down the field, wearing out that defense. So, that was a great win for me there. This was a prove it to me bet, and they didn't prove it to me, so I won. So that was great for me as well. And Ari, I really don't want to talk about this game. I really don't want to talk about this game because Sacramento State looked like one of the worst FCS teams in the second half that I've ever seen. And obviously you can credit it with that horrible hit. You can credit it with the fact that their wide receivers were having butterfingers all day. You can credit to the fact that the quarterback looked like the next guy off of what's that movie? Bobby Boucher. He was looking like the next Bobby Boucher out there, just slinging it sideways, couldn't even throw the ball. It was horrible. Sacramento State in the first half looked like an FBS team. They looked great. They were, obviously there were some mistakes, but you thought at halftime they would fix them and they would come out in the second half, even stronger. And they came out flat on their feet. They turned over the ball. They turned it over on downs. Couldn't stop. On defense, they were given San Jose wide receivers 9-10 yards at the line. I don't know if they do that in the FCS, but the FBS level, you got to go at least 3-4 yards closer to the line of scrimmage. Don't give them 9 yards at the line. It's gonna be an easy, either catch and go or just an easy 5 yards. You're getting them, for a 2nd and 5 or something for the run game. So I don't know if it was a coaching thing or what it was. Ari, I know you're still upset about this game as much as I am. So maybe I should have done the first half money line because, they looked like a good team in the first half, but the second half, it was all collapse. San Jose State capitalized on it like an FBS team would. It was just I mean, it was already so bad enough. Obviously, we saw the touchdown that San Jose State took the lead 35-24. Ensuing kickoff happens, and obviously the scary hit happens that he fumbles. San Jose State recovers. No targeting call is called, by the way, which I think is absolutely blasphemous. And then they call a targeting call 15 minutes later on something. You know what? It's one of those, like I said, Ari, you mentioned one of those weird games on True TV with the Mountain West. If that's what we're going to be getting on True TV, then I may have to never, ever place my money on True TV football games ever again. But unfortunate 1-2 day, we'll take some profit with the North Dakota State cover there. So I definitely will take that on my Thursday. Obviously, just, we're still early in the season. Obviously, we're barely getting into week 1 here. So, just still early days here. We're still figuring out, how these teams look here. So 1-2 day for me, Ari. I know Sac State pissed you off. How else did you do?
Yeah, 1-1 day for me. It was pretty much a sweat-free under in the UNC-Minnesota game. It was a little sweaty at halftime. It looked like a sweat-free, scoreless first quarter, and then they scored 21 points in the second quarter, and so that made it, a little bit more sweaty than I thought it needed to be. But then third quarter, it's just 2 field goals for UNC, and so at that point, it was, the only way you had a chance to go over was if it went to overtime, and with how many field goals were kicked, it wasn't going to go with overtime. Obviously, it was a heartbreaking loss for Minnesota with how it went down for them. And then, Sacramento State. Let's just say they left me in shambles last night, cost me a rack in the parlay that I had. So there's that. It's not just that they lost; it's how they lost. Up 14-0. Things are looking good. Obviously, it was kind of a fluky start though for San Jose State because they had like a couple of bad snaps and a couple of plays like that where they changed their center early, and so after that point, things are fine. But yeah, I think it was Nick Nash, right? I think is the receiver who's like they're pretty much their only like good offensive player, and you think that they're gonna put double coverage on him or whatnot, but even him, you have corners lining up like 9 yards or whatever, 7 yards off of him. Like that was like as frustrating as it gets. And then the play calling, they're at 14-7, 4th and goal at the literally the inch-yard line inside the 1, go up 21-7. The running back is dominant. The running back is dominating like all game, and they do an inside handoff to the tight end and get stuffed. And then after that, it basically slowly went downhill after that play call. Obviously, you can't say one play changes the whole game, but 21-7 versus 14-7 is obviously a huge difference at that point of the game. So, it was tough, but obviously that's all part of sports betting, and all plays like that are going to happen. You just have to move on and adjust and move on, and that's what we'll do. So, still take the win obviously on the under on the UNC Minnesota, and then move on to the first big slate. Obviously, some games tonight, and then the first big slate tomorrow.
Yeah, obviously, that was nice to see North Carolina, Minnesota under. You mentioned it, the game was already delayed an hour, due to the weather, and you hate the way to see, the way the game ended, obviously, especially with the fireworks going on even after he missed it. So that was a tough scene, and a lot of I hope he doesn't get even though he probably will, which is unfortunate with just sports and the sports betting game nowadays. He's probably going to be unfortunately getting some death threats or some very illicit messages in his I hope not, obviously, but just the way he missed it, obviously that was a tough one. Obviously just veered to the right literally as the kick was looking good for about maybe halfway. So but obviously that was a nice way to cash under for you at 36. Just very sloppy game from both quarterbacks. Max Johnson, my God, go to LinkedIn, buddy. I'm sorry. I think he tore his ACL, or I saw he had a really bad injury or something like that. I hope it wasn't a torn ACL as someone who was going through one. But, from what I saw, that man needs to go look up a website called Indeed.com, because, my God, that guy stunk. Oh, my goodness. But, and then Brosmer, look, it's his first game in the FBS. I feel like he's still getting used to things. And, it was obviously announced at the last second that Darius Taylor, star running back from Minnesota, was out. So you didn't even have a star running back to go to. So you had to rely on, a committee and his arms. So it was a close game, but obviously, a very good game in itself. And then you mentioned Sac State money line. I don't want to talk about it anymore. We're just moving on. Obviously, some games, that's part of sports betting sometimes. But obviously, you mentioned we still have a full slate for this weekend. I know you see all those games there. It's pretty much chronologically here. So first, we're starting with the one tonight in the Bay Area here, and we're taking Stanford here at home plus 9.5 as home dogs here. I'm getting them at minus 125. The reason we're taking Stanford here, this is another prove it to me bet, but this is for TCU because I don't think TCU's defense is going to be 9.5 points better than Stanford. And TCU's defense was absolutely abysmal last year. I don't believe that they have improved in any way, shape, or form. And I believe that with this line the way it's going, I think you got to get it now because it's already down. Live line is at 8.5, and I think it's probably going to go down to maybe 7 near kickoff. So I think Stanford is a great look here as a home dog. They still have the same quarterback and, pretty much most of their offense going into the ACC this year. With TCU, they're still rebuilding after their legacy run. Last year they went 5-7. They still have a great offense, but the thing is, I don't know how they do on the road in this spot. Obviously, Stanford, the one thing about Stanford is that they choose when to be, big fans. Last year, we didn't the crowd noise was not that much of a factor, I will say. As someone who watched, the Coug versus Stanford game last year, in Stanford, I can definitely say there was the crowd noise did not play any way, shape, or form in a factor because Washington State went in there and just absolutely beat the brakes off of Stanford last year. But this year, I think, with the fact that they have another year, that was the first year for Troy Taylor, his first year moving from Sac State, now going to play, in the FBS, and now he's going to play in the ACC, another big-time conference. I think with another year under his belt, I think Stanford can really keep on with this TCU team here. I'm not buying this TCU team at all. I don't think they're 9.5 points better than Stanford on the road in this spot. And this is a prove it to me bet. I like Stanford as a home dog here. Just to keep this one close. I think that their defense. I think that even though with their defense being a little bit questionable at times, I think they can hang around. And their offense. With the returners that they have, I think they can hang around. This TCU defense that has been very questionable. Big 12 play, just very questionable defense throughout TCU's tenure. So I'm taking Stanford here on the points here at plus 9.5 here for tonight's game. And then I got pretty much 4 essential picks for tomorrow, essentially here. First, in the morning, we're taking West Virginia here on the points, plus 8.5, minus 130 here. This is another kind of prove it to me, but in a different way. I don't believe in Penn State's offense one bit. Penn State's offense, they have not done anything impressive to me since Saquon Barkley has left the building. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, it has been all defense for Penn State and James Franklin. That's what he preaches. That's what they enforce, and that's what we get. Penn State is one of the best Big Ten teams in terms of their defense. We see it every year. Penn State goes on this great run. They're like a 10, 11 win team. They go win 9 or 10, like 8 to 10 games probably. They're losing maybe one other game. But outside the 2 games, obviously, which have always been Ohio State and Michigan, which they just somehow don't win every year. Outside of that, I don't trust them because their offense is not good. And now they're going to a West Virginia school that I think is very sneaky, especially going to Morgantown, obviously. This West Virginia team is very sneaky. I think they can hang around this Penn State team. Now, obviously, the one caveat is the Penn State's defense. And Penn State's defense is always going to be for real. That's why Penn State is already at a top 10 team, right now. You see it with how, their defense is always so talented. But this is more of a, is Drew Aller and that offense going to be 9 points better, essentially, than West Virginia? I don't think so. I think West Virginia's offense can hang around. If you want a sneaky potential money line bet, I maybe, would, depending on how that line finishes, maybe go with the Mountaineers at home in an upset potentially. I think, it's a very raucous environment. I think West Virginia can really make this game interesting. But I'm just taking the points here at 8.5. I think it's a great line here. I know that line's already going down to about 7.5, so it's already now to about a touchdown spread. So I think West Virginia hangs it around there. I probably would take it all the way up to 7.5. I think, once it gets below a touchdown spread, I think that's, that key indicator number there. Stay away from that. So I think West Virginia keeps this one interesting here, and I think they hang around with through the 8.5 here. Don't lose by more than 9. I think they do. So I'm taking West Virginia here on the point, plus 8.5 at -130. That's my first play for Saturday. And then I know everyone is saying Florida is the smart play. Florida on the points. You got to take Florida on the points. Sprinkle Florida on the money line. It's a great play. Oh, you got to take ranked. Take the unranked opponent. Oh, I don't care about all that. I'm taking the Canes. You want to know why? Because I am not a Graham Mertz believer. This guy sucks, okay? I don't know what is going on in those Florida waters that is making people believe that Graham Mertz is the guy. This guy is not anything special. I don't know what it is about this guy that makes people believe that Graham Mertz is actually something. He's nothing special. We're going to see it tomorrow. Look, you look at both teams, right? You only look at their defense. Florida has a good defense. Miami has a good defense. Miami's defense was ranked second in the ACC last year. We've already known about Florida's defense being one of the better defenses in the SEC last year. But this year, I already talked about Florida and how the ridiculously hard schedule is going to be playing a factor. And here it is. They got to welcome a ranked Miami opponent into the building. Obviously, it's the Swamp. It's going to be a loud environment on Saturday. I know it's going to be a factor, and that's why everyone's taking Florida. I see the vision, right? I see what you are trying to do. But Cam Ward is a magician. I have personally seen it with my own eyes. I know this guy can do things that you won't believe. And he has Damian Martinez right next to him, a solid running back who can really carry the ball well. I think that plays present as well with a talented receiving core around him, even though, yes, they still have to gel because obviously, they've only been there for an off season. So it's going to take, probably, throughout the season. But I still am really high on this Miami team. I told you I had this team winning the ACC. Did we see Florida State a week ago in Dublin? I mean, hello. And then Clemson. Look, they play Georgia tomorrow. Hello. I mean, this is Miami's opportune time if they really want to take some separation, because I know VTech's looking at that spot as well. I think VTech is a great sleeper team. That's a team I should have given out earlier. That's my bad. I did not know that Virginia Tech was returning almost 86% of their starters. So that's already a W in itself for Virginia Tech. But in terms of Miami tomorrow, I think they do sneak out a win here. I know this is going to be a really close game. I think this is going to be a defensive game. So if you don't like a side, I also like the under. I think this is going to be a low-scoring game. Obviously, pretty much a battle in the trenches. I think with the defenses pretty much, being pretty well, I think this could be a field goal game. But I think Miami does enough to get the job done on the road here. I'm taking them to take them on the money line here. I'm back in the Canes. This is obviously more as well going on to my season-long entries with fading Florida. This was a loss for me for when I had, was circling all the wins and losses. This was a back and forth one. It doesn't affect us too much, but I still am backing, Miami's to win here. So I'm taking the Canes on the money line here on the road in the Swamp in Gainesville, taking the Canes on the money line there. And then I'm kind of taking two plays in the same game, but I'll explain why. My primary play that I'm taking is Notre Dame team total under 22.5 points. Getting at -135. If you want to sprinkle 21.5, that's perfectly fine too. I was looking at that, but I wanted to play a little bit safer for 22. I think Notre Dame is going to struggle in this spot, right? Everyone's talking about Notre Dame and their defense. Yeah, that's great. How's their offense going to do? They got to go to Kyle Field, which is obviously, I'd say, one of the hardest places to play in the country in terms of college football. They got to go play a Texas A&M defense that already has veteran leadership, and last year, A&M, one of the best defenses in the SEC. And the storyline, Mike Elko, the former coach of Duke, who's now the coach of A&M, is facing Riley Leonard, the quarterback at Notre Dame, who was the quarterback at Duke. So, coach facing off against the former quarterback in week one. I think the coach would maybe know a few things about how his former quarterback likes to play maybe that for a defensive advantage. I'm more fading Notre Dame in this spot. I don't think, and you look at Riley Leonard's home and road splits. Riley Leonard at home games, about 67% completion percentage on the road. That drops to 53. I think Notre Dame really struggles in this one. I think it's going to be a low-scoring game, and that's why I think Notre Dame struggles offensively here, and that's why I'm taking their team total here under 22.5. If they have to rely on the run, A&M has a good run defense. I think that forces Riley Leonard to throw the ball, and, he struggles on the air. So I'm taking Notre Dame 2 total, and that's why I'm also taking A&M on the money line. I was going to take them minus the 3, but, I was going to take them on the spread, but, like I said yesterday with Jacksonville State, but forget Jacksonville State. They're an FCS school. That team sucks. But with A&M, when that spread gets to about 3, you just take the team on the money line at home here. And Texas A&M obviously now 3-point favorites at home against Notre Dame. Look, everyone's probably going to load up Notre Dame plus 3.5 because it's a ranked versus ranked matchup, and Notre Dame a little bit higher in the rankings. Take them to make this game close, but I think Texas A&M just takes the win here. If you want to load it up in your parlays or whatever you want, you can. If you still want to take it straight, you can as well. But I think A&M gets the win here on Saturday at home. I just am more backing the Notre Dame team total under, but I also wanted to give out the A&M money line because, it's more of a system play as well, with these ranked opponents, versus ranked teams. You take the home team as the favorite here, and A&M just take them. You take the home team, on the money line. Spread, I wouldn't touch the spread unless it was less than 3, and obviously it's going to 3 now. So, and when you take that, when that spread gets to about 3 to 30, you just take the home team on the money line. So I'm just taking A&M here on the money line to get the win here. And Saturday night game of the night at Kyle Field, in College Station, I think they get the win there, minus 148. And then finally, after all this yapping, I'll get into Sunday's game here. The game in Vegas, obviously, between the LSU and USC. And we are just rooting for points because we're taking that over here. 64 at minus 112. Look, you look at both teams, right? There's a lot of new with both teams. A lot of new with USC, obviously, new quarterback Miller Moss, new offense. A lot of new with LSU. Obviously, Nusseheimer, new quarterback, new offense. I am just backing offense here because of that. LSU's defense last year, bad. USC's defense last year, bad. USC obviously brings in new DC. I don't think it's going to be making too much of a difference. I still think LSU, makes this game a fun shootout. And who doesn't want to root for points in the only game, obviously, on the Sunday night game, obviously, between LSU and USC, SEC versus the Big Ten here. I'm just root for points, obviously, between these teams, just rooting for both offenses to really get things done in Vegas. I think both teams can really shoot out in an offensive production here. So I'm just rooting for points here. I like LSU's offense to do stuff against the USC secondary. That's really, it's really suspect as of right now. We saw it last year. USC's secondary was absolutely horrible. I don't think they make any too many improvements. And Nusseheimer, he's I think 7th or 8th in terms of Heisman watch. Obviously, just because LSU and the talent that LSU has produced, obviously at the quarterback position recently with Jaden Daniels and transferring from ASU, and obviously Joe Burrow as well. Obviously, and how talented he is in the NFL now. I think Nusseheimer has a great shot, to put up some points against USC. And then on the other side, we saw Caleb Williams last year, obviously, and then we saw Miller Moss in that one bowl game, I think, against Louisville, and he shut out. Obviously, that offense was really, really good against a good good Louisville defense. So I think that, if that's, from what that, it's a little microcosm, but you got to take it what you will. I still think their offense can do stuff, against an LSU defense that, we haven't seen to really act great as well recently as well. So I'm just taking these two teams to score a lot of points. That's why I'm taking that over 64 and 64 at minus 112. So I know it's a big one, but this is my big slate for the weekend. Obviously, we got games Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Taking Stanford plus 9.5 tonight at minus 125. I'm on West Virginia tomorrow morning at plus 8.5 at minus 130. I'm on the Hurricanes money line, Miami Hurricanes money line at minus 135 tomorrow afternoon. And then tomorrow night, I'm on 2 plays in the same game. Notre Dame team total under 22.5 points at minus 135. And then the Aggies, Texas A&M Aggies on the money line at minus 148. And then on Sunday, in the only game on the college football slate on Sunday, taking that over. Love that over 64 between LSU and USC in Vegas. Love those points there. So those are all my picks for this weekend. Obviously, just a big college football slate. Obviously, week 1 kickoff week here, big time week. Obviously, all right. I know you got a couple picks for tomorrow. What have you cooked up for this weekend?
Yeah, I have 2 plays. Oh my gosh, Goff is fading.
Well, hey, shout out. I was also just a PSA. If it was not for the A&M one, I was also going to give out Hawaii plus 14. So Ari, I'll let you explain it, but I also was going to give out Hawaii plus 14. Just wanted to say that.
Yeah, 2 plays, and they both happen to be fading teams. I'm on their under season long. I don't think Weber State wins. I think Hawaii actually. I think they have an outside chance. And we talked about when I was talking about my UCLA underplay, is how bad they're going to be this year, and a completely new scheme, new system, everything. Obviously, Hawaii already has a game under their belt, so that helps them a little bit. The game's in Hawaii, so they have the home field. Not that it's like that long of travel from UCLA compared to Delaware State last week, obviously, but still travel, still time change and all of that. So I mean, I think Hawaii's a live dog here. I may be sprinkling them on their money line as well. So it's a combination of, and then I don't know how true this is, but I heard that in Hawaii's first game, they didn't fully open up their playbook against Delaware State. They wanted to wait for this UCLA game, which makes sense with how their offense didn't look right early against Delaware State. So whether or not that's fully true, I don't fully know, but it is something to consider. So because Hawaii did not look great against Delaware State, all things considered, but I'm not. That's why I'm not overly worried about that against this UCLA team that I don't think it's going to be good at all this year. So give me the points of Hawaii and potentially a sprinkle on their ML. I think it's plus 440 last I looked. So there's that. And then Weber State, this is mostly just a game for me where UW just has to prove it. They're playing, in Seattle. And, obviously all the changes for Washington this year on both sides of the ball, especially the offensive line, that worries me the most. And Weber State has a lot of returners on their defensive line, not their best or not their best defensive lineman. He left, but they have a lot of returners on their defensive line. And then they have a quarterback, a freshman who came in the last 5 games last year and played really well, went 3-2. I think they had an upset win over Idaho in their last game. So I think they're going to be able to keep up. Even if Washington has success in offense, I think they're going to be able to keep up enough to be able to cover this point spread. So this one for me is not as much of an upset watch or a live dog, but I do like the points a lot. I think it's too much. I mean, the total is pretty high as well. I think it was 53 last I looked. It was 52 or 53, so the total is pretty high. So I think there's going to be points on both sides. And I think we're going to see Weber State score enough to be able to keep this within 26 or hopefully 25 to avoid the push, obviously. So going with 2 pretty big underdogs. One, Hawaii, I think, has an outside shot of keeping it close down to the wire, which I think at that point there's, value over plus 400. Weber State, I don't think they're going to win, but I think they're going to be able to score enough to be able to keep it close. And again, I'm not, I have my questions with the offensive line for the Huskies. Maybe I could be wrong, obviously, but there's just a lot of turnovers first game of the season. So I think, this game could get kind of weird late night on Saturday.
Yeah, first with Hawaii, even though there's, a great system of, backing teams who, didn't play in week 0 versus teams that did, systems or whatnot. But for me, and I think you as well, I think we're both low on UCLA. And I think this is more of a prove it bet for both of us. I think, with Hawaii, you mentioned, you got to take it with, a grain of salt, but, if they didn't really use their whole offensive playbook and they're, I think that could be a factor as well with maybe why this line is, a little bit, in favor. And I'd say a little bit too much in favor of UCLA. I think giving a little too much credit to them. I think Hawaii, as a really big home dog is a great look there, as well as sprinkling the money line as well. I think they do potentially, give UCLA a little bit of a scare, even though, there's a profitable system of, backing teams who didn't play in week 0 versus teams who did or whatnot. But I still like Hawaii on the points here at home. I think they make this game really fun. Then obviously you mentioned the late night game in Seattle between Weber State and UW. You mentioned obviously the whole turnover for Washington. Obviously new offensive line. Weber State has a lot of returners. Not really taking the money line, which is fair. But I think as well, I think they can probably make this game obviously less than than it is right now at 26. I think they can make this a 3-touchdown game potentially. Keep this one interesting. You mentioned the totals creeping up as well with the 52 total, so I think they can make that game interesting to end the night. Obviously, Saturday night for you. So your 2 plays as well with one of my other ones as well with Hawaii on the points, and then Weber State for you plus 26. Pretty much pick them right now at plus 110. And then alongside with my whole weekend, Stanford tonight, West Virginia tomorrow, Miami tomorrow on the money line, West Virginia on the points, plus 8.5. Notre Dame team total under, Notre Dame team total under 22.5 points. A&M on the money line, and then Sunday with LSU and USC over there at 64 points. You can find all of these picks obviously on our Twitter. We will have our best bets for Friday obviously posted soon. We will have Saturday's card posted later tonight, and then I will have my picks posted for Sunday potentially, or I may include that with Saturday. So just tune in tonight. Obviously, we will have our full card posted for this weekend posted later tonight. But that's going to do it for this episode of AKP Sports Talk. That is REM Korea. Also, Monday, we will have our full NFL futures posted on our Twitter as well. So make sure to watch out for that. And obviously, Monday, we do have that Labor Day game between Boston College and Florida State. We may or may not have a pick there, depending on what we like. But obviously, that is going to be our next video. So tune into that. But we thank you guys for tuning in to this episode. We appreciate you guys. That's REM Korea. Have a great week. And of course, win some money with our bets. And we will see you guys on Monday.